It's good to see you, and welcome to Cafe Church. And we'll be doing this once a month again. We're having a break over the summer, and great to have Ian and David here tonight. So I just want to hand over to them now.
Ken's in England, and he doesn't give a stuff about us. He's just away. He's just away, and at the minute he's eating Knickerbocker glories. And he said, lads, all the best. I have a big ice cream in front of me now, and I hope it all goes okay. And I says, thanks very much, Ken, it's very kind of you. And I says, I'll pass on your kind words. But it's always good to be here. Always good fun to be here. And there's a few songs we're singing tonight in the Cafe Church that you won't hear probably in any other Presbyterian church around Ireland. And but I blame the Reverend Rankin, so that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's really interesting why people write songs, because there's two songs we're going to do. One's by a man called Eric Clapton, and he wrote about his wife. I think you've had a fair idea what that'll be. And it was a story about his wife and the love he had for her and so on. Another one is Van Morrison, about a young girl that he was mad keen on when he was a young lad, and she had beautiful brown eyes. And he used to chase her all around where we live in East Belfast. And therefore he wrote stories about the things that were of interest to him. And that's why people write songs. But at 13 years of age, I became a follower of Jesus. And at a similar age, maybe David became a follower of Jesus. And so all the songs I've ever written are about Jesus. And they're really love songs about Jesus. And because Van Morrison made his fame and fortune wanting to share stories, and he still does. And Eric Clapton made his fame and fortune wanting to tell stories through music. It's not the fame and fortune we're after. It's just the desire to want to share what's in our hearts with other people. And therefore, through music is only one of the ways that we do it. So we're going to be singing some of the songs that I've written over the years. There's two in particular. And we're going to sing two songs that maybe people much more famous than we are. And we've been called by God, as followers of God in this area, to share what's in our hearts. And Jesus lives in our hearts. I know he does, and you guys are just great. We just love coming down here. Here's a wee song I think you'll recognise. If you want to sing along with the chorus, sing away. If you want to sing along with the rest of it, do that as well.
Let's get in the hollow. We're playing a new game.
wee song that we enjoy singing, and it's called Lord, I Come to You. Sometimes we'll play it on Sunday morning for you. It goes like this. Lord, I come to you. Let my heart be changed. Renewed, flowing from your grace that I found in you. And Lord, I've come to know the weaknesses I see. In me will be stripped away by the power of your love. Hold me close, let your love surround me. Bring me near, Lord, and draw me to your side. And as I wait, I'll rise up like an eagle, and I will soar with you. Your spirit leads me on in the power of your love. Lord, unveil my eyes, let me see you face to face, the knowledge of your love as you live in me. And Lord, renew my mind as your will unfolds in my life, in living every day by the power of your love. Hold me close, let your love surround me. Bring me near, Lord, and draw me to your side. And as I wait, I'll rise up like an eagle, and I will soar with you. Your spirit leads me on in the power of your love. We'll pray. Lord God, we just thank you for the fact that you died for us on a cross, and you took the sins of the world upon your shoulders, and you're really so concerned about every single human being on the planet, and you long to draw us into a relationship with you, that we can know you as an Abba Father, as a daddy, and the relationship can start to grow in our hearts and in our minds and all that we are. Lord God, just transform us and help us to be the people that you want us to be. Help us to live holy and righteous lives before you in the place where you put us, in the others will know that God rules and reigns in our hearts because of the things that we do, the things that we say, the places we go, and the way that we share our love for others. And just as Jesus washed his disciples' feet, Lord God, help us to find ways where we can serve one another and show the love of God that's in our hearts so we can be more like Jesus. In Jesus' name we pray.
Hold me close and let your love surround me. Bring me near and draw me to your side. And as I wait, I'll rise up like eagle, and I will soar with you. Your spirit leads me on in the power of your love.
Here's a song which follows on, I think, nicely from that. It's a song I wrote a few years ago, and it really asks God to lead the way, because we can try to do all the things that we want to do, and you guys are awful good at looking at innovative ways and creative ways of engaging with this community. And so you should be. That's what we should be using our intelligence and our creativity for. But really we can't do it on our own strength, and we'll have to say, God, you show us where you want us to go. You tell us the things that you want us to do, and help us to be obedient. And here's a song which just says to God, God, you are in charge. You lead the way.
Every promise of the Father is a blessing to the soul.
5, 10, 50. I'll talk for a very short time, and then I want to show a video, and then I want to talk about it. And if you've been to university, there's two different ways to study at university. Well, two different subjects, or lots of different subjects, but two different types of subject. You've got a subject like history, and if you study history at university, the idea of history is that you get as much information in your head as possible. So if I throw you out a date, you'll be able to tell me what happened on that day. That's what history is about, is memorising lots of facts and figures. And if you're a bit sad like me, then you love that type of thing where you memorise lots of different things. That's one type of subject. And after you get your degree, then you're able to pass on that information. But if you remember at school, no one here's a history teacher. That's okay. If you're at school, the one teacher, sorry, you're not a history teacher. The one subject that we didn't like, and all of us didn't, was history. We found it really boring because it seemed as if the teacher stood at the front at 1066, the Battle of Hastings. So like a bingo caller, you know, 958, the temple was built. 515, it was rebuilt. And then in 42 BC, you know, and that's what it sounded like. History was just really, really boring, and it was getting all that information. So that's one way of learning. And then there's another way of learning, or another type of subject, I suppose, and that's nursing. I've never done nursing, but my future daughter-in-law's doing nursing. And what they do in nursing is, they recognise it's vocational, and therefore, to give you lots of facts and figures in a lecture room without you actually practising is actually quite dangerous. You can do that with history, because anybody can teach history. And so whether you're a good history teacher or a bad history teacher, you can talk about the facts. Whereas nursing, you can't do that. It's important that you know the facts. It's important that you learn all about the human body and the heart and the legs and the head and all of that. But it's also important in nursing to apply the facts. Okay? So what they do in nursing is they teach you lots of information, and then they take you out of the classroom. Half your time is learning in the classroom, and half the time is spending with an experienced nurse who's been nursing for many, many years. And she will take you under her wing, and she will teach you how to talk to patients. She will teach you to look for the signs when a patient comes in and says, I have a sore leg, it's actually, there's something wrong with their ear, or whatever it might be. But they're good because they've got this, the experience of how to deal with people. They have experience of different things that go wrong. And you learn that by experience. And therefore, she will teach you lots of things that you will not learn in the classroom. Because there's things you need to be taught by seeing how it's done. Sometimes in church, we see that as an either-or thing, and it should never be like that. It's important that we're taught. So Sunday mornings or other times, it's important to have information. But information, hopefully Sunday mornings are not all like this, but if it's just about gaining information about God, or information about the Bible, or information about our faith, that's useful and that's helpful. But we also need to have in the church times when we are able to work alongside one another, so that we learn how to do it. We have Christians in this church who have been Christians many years, and they know what to say to people when people are hurting, or when people are sad, and or when people are hostile. And therefore, the two different types of teaching is really important in a church, where you've got information and application, but also working alongside. That second type of teaching is called discipleship training, where you spend time with people, and not only do you hear things and learn things by what they say, but you learn things by the way they say it, and the way they do it, and how they would answer it. And over this last quite a number of months, the Kirk session has been thinking and talking about what we do here is really quite good, but maybe we need to try and do a wee bit more of the second vocational type teaching and learning. And so we think that over the next few months, we're not exactly sure exactly when, but it'll probably be October through to Christmas, that we might try out that second type of learning in evening services. We'll explain how that might work later on. But it's the idea of maybe working maybe in smaller groups just to try and think and tease out some issues about how to disciple. Because discipleship is really important, and that's what we already do in this church, and we do it really well in lots of different ways. But another way of doing it is getting alongside in smaller groups, other than the house groups, just to learn specifically. As I say, in nursing, you might do 6 weeks in the ward, and it'll be a surgical ward, and you'll learn all about surgery. And then you go back to the classroom and you'll do some general nursing work. And the next time you go out in placement, they call it might be in a children's ward, and you learn how to work with children and help children. And then you go back in for general teaching. And then you'll maybe go out and maybe working with older people. And so it's different scenarios is nursing, that you learn different ways of doing it. And so we might do that in the sense of, or we might think of different ways in which we might share our faith, or different ways in which we might build one another up, or different ways in which we can pray and help one another. And so we might try and think about that. That sounds a wee bit vague at the minute, I appreciate that. But I thought just tonight I might introduce that's what we're going to be trying doing. So it's good to do teaching and application from the pulpit, but it's also good that we try and do it maybe a wee bit more informal, and we'll think about how we might do that. And the great thing is I haven't a body how to do it. And so therefore, if I start doing it and it's not working, you just say, Danny, you haven't a body, and we'll change it. So it's not that we're doing something that's set in stone, but we're going to try and do something to see if it might work. So I thought just to introduce that, I want someone else to speak for a minute or two, and it's a guy who's really famous in the States. You might not know him, Ravi Zacharias, and he is a minister of a church in Atlanta, in Georgia. But he's also a great, what they call a Christian apologist. A Christian apologist is somebody who is really good at seeing where the world is and speaking Jesus into that, and seeing that what the issues are, and every generation has different issues. He's really good at saying, what are the issues for today's society, and how as Christians should we address that? That's a part of discipleship, and he's speaking on discipleship just for 4 minutes. And so we'll watch that now, and then we'll go back to Ian and David. If it needs to be loud.
Hi, this is Ravi Zacharias, and I'm talking to you on a day which has been very special to us here in our ministry in Atlanta. We've had the privilege of having Edmund and Ann Chan with us to speak to our staff on the whole theme of discipleship and what is most important in your life and mine. You know, I'm now celebrating 42 years in ministry. You start off with a blaze and with the energy and the zeal and all that comes into your heart, your passion. It's all genuine, but oftentimes less informed than it needs to be. And while we crisscross the globe, cover venue after venue, we see results. We see people coming to Christ. Our hearts are thrilled, and we keep going. And then you look back over the years and you say, what would you have done differently if you had a chance? And the question that often haunts me when I think of it that way is, why didn't we think of this sooner than we did? Yeah, we use terms like follow-up. We were aware of that. We do follow-up. We do send literature and all that. But the call that Christ has given to us to make disciples is much more than the meager term of follow-up. It involves time. It involves interaction. It involves teaching. It involves the disciplines of the heart, the mind, your day-to-day walk, how that nearness with Christ is built. And so there are two ends of the spectrum, from evangelism to discipleship, that are at this time, I think, in church history, both of them in great need of support, strength, and buttressing. I go into hostile campuses. I see the toughest ones of them actually end up, many times, giving ground, admitting that they really have not got the answers, and some of them then making that commitment to Christ. And then the question comes to my mind, now what? Where do we send them? And if you don't gain that momentum at that time, oftentimes you actually set them back farther than where they were when you first met them. I hope you followed what I've just said. Because if they haven't been there, done that feeling, and think it never, quote, worked, then you obviously know their understanding of the conversion experience has been shallow, and nobody was able to take them beyond that initial encounter of hearing the gospel. This is where I think Edmund Chan has just been a trailblazer, a unique voice in our time, and with his intentional move towards the churches that have to make discipleship intentional and programmatic and of the Spirit. That vision that he's imparting, I think, to global leaders is critical. And he does it on his own with individuals. I like the way what he describes the mentoring program as sort of journeying together. The picture that comes to my mind when I hear him say that is the Emmaus Road walk. Jesus talking to the disciples, journeying together, retracing history, and then the breaking of the bread, and their eyes are open. Friends, I want to say this to you. We are living in some of the most treacherous times that are quite hostile to the gospel message. We not only need to present that gospel clearly, but then we need to be able to walk that long journey. Some of the finest minds in the world today are open to listening to the gospel, and those minds could be rescued to great advantage for the propagation of the gospel in the future if discipleship is done rightly. And I'm just thrilled to be a part of an encourager here and affirm what this ministry is doing in building those that are intentional discipleship making churches. That is a call for our time, and it's a clarion call. I hope those of you who are even watching this will make it your life's mission, because it's a worthy cause and something to which our Lord has called all of us, first in our own inner life, to be in tune with him, and then to multiply that attitude of heart with those whom we come into contact with, who claim to be followers of Jesus Christ. God bless you. May you truly be a discipler. The world needs you to do that, and needs the disciples to be there. God bless you.
Okay, Ian.
Okay, then. I love the journey that you guys are going to be engaging on the next few months, because discipleship is, I set up a Bible study group at my house about 8 or 9 years ago, and the whole idea was to disciple people. And discipleship requires time, and it requires energy, and it requires commitment. And it's something which is scarce in today's generation, because people want to do something for a week and then leave it. And therefore there's a big commitment to it, but to me it's the right thing to do, and we'll be praying for you guys that you'll get your plan together and you'll be able to support one another in it. And I believe this is very much at the heart of what God wants to do. That's why he had 12 disciples, and that's why he developed that into 72 disciples, and that's why then he called us to go out and do exactly the same thing as them. This next song is about that. It's about the Father's heart.
Every writer has a day when words just will not come. And every singer has a song they want to call their own. And our Father has a plan for the bride that's yet to be. Our bridegroom dressed in white It's a promise so true, a promise so true. My Jesus, my Savior, Lord, there is none like you. All of my days, I want to praise the wonders of your mighty touch. My shelter, my comfort, Lord, there is none like you. All of my days, I want to praise the wonders of your mighty touch. Shout to the Lord, all the earth, let us sing. Power and majesty, praise to the King. Mountains bow down and the seas will roar at the sound of your name. I sing for joy at the touch of your hand. Forever I love you, forever I'll stand. Nothing compares to the promise I have. Nothing compares to the promise I have. Nothing compares to the promise I have in you.
Here's a wee song made famous by a man called Eric Clapton. And this is our version of it. I think Eric Clapton was looking for this one on YouTube to see if he could copy it, but anyway, I play one of them.
yes, I feel wonderful tonight. I feel wonderful because I see the love light in your eyes, and the wonder of it all is that I just don't realize how much I love you. It's time to go home now. I've got to live here, so I give her the car key, and she helps me to bed. And then I tell her, as I turn out the light, I said, my darling, you were wonderful tonight. Oh, my darling, you were wonderful tonight. Yes, my darling, you were wonderful tonight.
And the love that he had for his wife is the love that we need to show. It's in our hearts for Jesus, and much, much more as we serve the community where God has placed us. And so people write these songs. People have this played at their weddings. This becomes a song at the start of the evening. This becomes a song at the end. This is our favourite song. That whenever comes on, this is our song. They identify with these things. And in the exact same way, we can share with our lives when we live our lives out in front of one another, and we serve one another, we look after, we care for one another, that Jesus lives in our hearts, and we help each other be more like him. Thank you. But then you guys always sit here, so hey, we've got a few wee songs. I was looking through the songs today, and there's a few wee songs that I just love. A few years ago, I was asked to go to a place called Fermoy. We had a wee minister in Bloomfield called Hart Lewis, and he was just the salt of the earth, and he was just brilliant. And he read in a magazine, Fermoy needs help. Now, dear love him, they didn't know what help they were getting, but anyway, and they got us. So me and him and a man called Alistair Giffen went down to Fermoy just to check out whether these people really needed help or whether they didn't. And God's good, because as you guys start to plan what you're going to do here, God will be leading the way. And whenever we went down to Fermoy, we met with the key people. It was amazing how many people just came our way, and where we were going to stay and what we were going to do. It was supposed to be a 3-year project. I'm building into something here, okay? Just listen very, very carefully to what happens in ministry and discipleship as it goes along. So I was designed to set up a team to go for 3 years. 11 years later, we stopped it because the youth worker at that time moved on to do something else, and that's the way it goes. At one stage in a room, not quite the size of this, we had 230 kids. And about 30 leaders. Me and Davey hadn't space to play our guitars, so we were up on the bookshelves playing, and kids were singing, going down the street, and I picked up some of the wee songs that we taught them while we were down there. And we're going to sing. If you want to join in, we're going to sing some of them to you now. And if you want a wee cup of tea while we're doing that, you feel free to do that. But these are just, you listen to the words of these kids' songs. And I'm a bit of a sal, because I'm not just that smart. And therefore, for me to sit in my kitchen and play kids' songs is what I love, probably more than anything else, because they speak to me more than this other stuff. And it goes like this. I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got peace like a river, Lord, I've peace like a river, I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain, I've got joy like a fountain, I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain, I've got joy like a fountain, I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. I've got love like the ocean, I've got love like the ocean, I've got love like the ocean in my soul. I've got love like the ocean, I've got love like the ocean, I've got love like the ocean in my soul. I've got peace like a river, I've got joy like a fountain, I've got love like the ocean in my soul. I've got peace like a river, I've got joy like a fountain, I've got love like the ocean in my soul. Will you hear this one? Will you hear this one? It goes like this. It's far better to give than to get. It's far better to give than to get all you can. It's far better to say, would you like, than I want. It's far better to say, what can I give to you? Thank you, Father, the one who gave us Jesus. Although we didn't deserve it, He's the one who frees us. Thank you, Father, the one who gave us Jesus. Although we didn't deserve it, He's the one who frees us. Oh, it's far better to give than to get. It's far better to give than to get all you can. It's far better to say, would you like, than I want. It's far better to say, how can I give to you? Wow. I love this one. We had hundreds of kids going bonkers for this song here, and this was one of our favourites because me and Davey are a wee bit sad because this is about our age limit, right? This is where speak for yourself. Davey says, okay, we'll take this. I reach up high and touch the ground. I stand my feet and turn around. I've got to praise the Lord. I jump and dance with all my might. I might look funny, but that's alright. I've got to praise the Lord. goes
Don't lay on
like
that.
this.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, oh, let it shine, let it shine. Hold it out for all to see. I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, hold it out for all to see. I'm gonna let it shine. Hold it out for all to see. I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Hide it under a bushel. No, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, hide it under a bushel. No, I'm gonna let it shine. Hide it under a bushel. No, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Oh, let it shine. Let it shine. So don't let the devil get out. I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, don't let the devil get out. Oh, I'm gonna let it shine. Don't let the devil get out. I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Oh, let it shine. Let it shine. Spread my light around the world. I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, spread my light around the world. Oh, I'm gonna let it shine. Spread my light around the world. I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Oh, let it shine. Let it
Let your light shine in this area and let people know that Jesus rules in their world. Amen. Tea time.